So, Doctor Strange 2, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is finally out in theaters, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really sure that I'm ready to do this review because out of all the MCU films, I have never been more mixed or conflicted on how I feel about whether this is a good movie or not. You know, some films like Iron Man 2 or Thor The Dark World, we can mostly agree are, some of the weakest movies in the MCU. And then there are top tier films like Endgame and No Way Home. But this movie is really divisive as to whether people like it or not. That seems to be the general sense in the fandom. Some people love the film, some people don't. And I'm kind of in between. I like certain parts of the movie, but I don't know if it works as a whole. Now, before diving into spoilers, let me say this. If you haven't seen the film, two things that you need to know before going into this movie. Number one, don't believe all the leaks that came out for this film. There were these crazy leaks about all these crazy cameos. There are cameos in this movie from other Marvel projects, but don't go in expecting anything as crazy as the leaks would have you believe. Number two, and I can't stress this enough, you have to see WandaVision before watching this movie. WandaVision is critical to this film. If you haven't seen it, then you're going to have a hard time following the plot of Doctor Strange 2. So please, do yourself a favor. If you're going to see this movie, go and watch WandaVision first if you haven't seen the film already. Alright, so that being said, spoiler warning, go see the movie if you haven't, then come back to this review because we are diving into spoilers right now. Alright, so I'm going to do this review a little differently than what I have done in my previous movie reviews, where I go through the plot and talk about what I like and didn't like, and giving my thoughts as I recap the story. This time, I'm going to give you guys a quick plot synopsis, and then I'm going to go into more detail as I discuss the different aspects of the movie that I did or didn't like. So Doctor Strange 2 begins with a young girl by the name of America Chavez on the run from demonic creatures who are chasing her across the multiverse in order to acquire her powers because, as we learn later on, she has the ability to open portals between universes. After an alternate Doctor Strange tries to kill her to prevent her powers from falling into the wrong hands, that Doctor Strange is killed by a demon, and America ends up in the mainline MCU universe, where she meets the Doctor Strange that we all know and love. Recognizing that the demons chasing her are associated with witchcraft, Doctor Strange seeks out the aid of Wanda in order to protect America. But this turns out to be a really bad move because Wanda has been corrupted by a demonic book known as the Darkhold, which has turned her fully and completely into the Scarlet Witch. Desperate to reunite with her children, who she had to give up in WandaVision, and corrupted by the Darkhold, Wanda is revealed to be the one sending the demons to capture America Chavez and steal her powers. She seeks to use her powers to cross over into another universe where her children are real and have the life and family that she always wanted. So this forces America Chavez and Doctor Strange to go on the run throughout the multiverse, trying to escape Wanda and her minions, where they encounter, some alternate universe heroes and villains along the way. All the while, they search for the Book of Ashanti, which is said to give a sorcerer the ability to solve any problem. But the book ends up destroyed and all seems lost. However, in the end, Wanda is confronted by the monster she has become and, realizing her mistakes, seemingly sacrifices herself to destroy the Darkhold and bring the terror of the Scarlet Witch to an end. America ends up training under the Masters of the Mystic Arts, and it seems the Dark Dimension from the first film may come into play in the future, and that's the overall plot of Doctor Strange 2. So now that you have the basic plot synopsis, I want to go through the various aspects and characters of the film and explain what worked for me and what didn't, and show you why I feel so mixed on the movie. And I think the best way to begin this is with the main villain of the film, Wanda, aka the Scarlet Witch. Let me start off by saying that, yeah, the rumors and the leaks in this regard were absolutely true. Wanda is the villain of the film. I think Wanda and everything about Wanda is the best part of this movie, to be honest. Her motivation as a villain is one of the most relatable motivations you can have. I mean, she is a mother desperate to find her children. any good and any decent parent could relate to this. A good mother can and will do extreme things to protect and be with her children. They will go to the ends of the earth, or in this case, to the ends of reality for her children. And that's why Wanda in this film is really such a heartbreaking character, because on the one hand, you 100% get where she is coming from, but at the same time, you know that what she is doing to get what she wants is absolutely not right. First of all, she is willing to let another child die to get her power, so she is sacrificing one child to be with her own children. And number two, because of the Darkhold's corruption, she can't be trusted with the ability to cross between universes freely, because as the Scarlet Witch, she could enslave all of reality potentially. And in the second half of the film, you begin to see her becoming the multiversal tyrant she could have become if she didn't stop herself. The entire time you were just wanting to reach out and get her to wake up and realize that even though her motivation and desire is pure, her actions are 100% wrong. And she only realizes this herself when America gives her what she wants. America ends up opening a portal to another universe where her children exist, and she is so, broken at this point, so desperate at this point, that she almost kills that universe's Wanda right in front of her children. This causes the boys to fear the mainline Wanda, and seeing the fear in her children's eyes is what causes her to see the monster she is becoming. And it's a really heartbreaking scene. Again, most of the scenes with Wanda in this are really, really good. They're really good at pulling out your emotions, and the way this ends for her, it's heartbreaking. It really is, because, you want her to have a happy ending, but, what it takes to get that happy ending is just wrong, and it's not worth it. So she ends up, realizing what she's becoming, what she's doing, and, to correct her mistakes and find some level of redemption, she sacrifices herself to destroy the Darkhold. And in doing so, she destroys the original Darkhold, and in doing so, destroys all copies of the Darkhold throughout the multiverse. And it's really heartbreaking to see what happens to her. Now, is she actually dead for good? Is she not coming back in the MCU? I don't know. There's not been any confirmation on that yet. This is comic books, and characters who die come back to life all the time, so we could see Wanda return. But after this film, after WandaVision, I really do want Wanda to get a happy ending at some point, because, I feel bad for her. She was doing a lot of messed up stuff, killed a lot of people in this movie. But you can't help but feel bad for her, and in the end she does suffer for her mistakes, and she does find some level of redemption. I love every bit of Wanda in this movie. I was invested in her story so much, and it was a bittersweet ending to see her seemingly sacrifice herself. My problem is, however, with Wanda's story is the fact that because it is so central to the movie, you really do have to see WandaVision to really appreciate or understand what is going on with the plot. I can imagine someone who has never seen WandaVision coming into this movie like, wait a minute, what? Like Westview, Wanda has kids created from magic, what? I have seen WandaVision, and so I wasn't confused at all, but I can see a casual fan who only watches the movies being utterly lost. And that's a big problem for me. That's a huge problem for me, because I believe when it comes to any form of storytelling, a viewer should not be required to seek out outside sources to understand the plot within that particular medium. For example, going into Star Wars Episode 9, it is fair to expect people to have seen the other 8 episodes before watching the final film. But Episode 9 also expects you to have read the novels to get the full context of the plot of the movie. In Episode 9, they never explain how Palpatine survived his death in Episode 6, but in the novel for the movie, they explain it was through cloning and essence transfer, meaning you have to read the novel to understand the movie. And I don't like that. I think you should only have to see the movies to understand the movies, and the novels should just be there for people that want to delve further into the plot and the lore. That they're expansions of it, but they shouldn't be required reading. And it's the same problem here. To understand Doctor Strange 2, the movie, you have to watch WandaVision, the Disney Plus series. Those are two different outlets of content, and when you start connecting them too much, it starts to become too much for most of the casual audiences to follow. And my fear is that this may lead to the MCU becoming very convoluted, which does not bode well for the future of the MCU. If they keep that strategy up, I can see a lot of viewers being turned off by the MCU in the future. So I think they really do need to tread carefully here with how much they, tie together the Disney Plus series and the theatrical releases of the MCU films. My next problem with Wanda leads into my problem with who is supposed to be the main character of this movie, and that is Stephen Strange. Stephen Strange, in my opinion, does not even feel like the main character of the movie. That focus is so heavily on Wanda throughout the movie that Strange kind of gets pushed to the side in his own freaking film. At the beginning of the movie, we do see him attending the wedding of Christine, his love interest from the first film, but she is marrying someone else. We see that Strange kind of alienated her in order to protect her from all the threats he has to deal with. And so she ends up marrying somebody else. So yeah, the hero does not get the girl this time. And this leads to, a scene where Christine asks Steven if he is happy or not. And this question plagues him, and it ties into a scene near the end of the movie. But that's the issue. See, Doctor Strange gets development at the beginning of the movie and at the end of the movie. Before the middle of the film, which is the vast majority of the movie, he is just kind of there. I mean, what it feels like, he doesn't really feel so much as, a active participant in the plot. More so, it's just like things happen to Strange because of Wanda or America or the Illuminati, and Strange is just reacting to all of this stuff caused by other characters rather than actively playing a role in moving the plot forward himself. And that's incredibly frustrating. As the main character, you should be an active mover of the progression of the story, but he's just not. When something happens, he reacts to it, and that's it. So as much as I like Wanda in this movie, I do feel she steals the spotlight from Doctor Strange. It's almost like they used, really, this film, it's almost like they used Doctor Strange as a catalyst to resolve the plot of WandaVision and conclude her story. You could almost see this film as a series finale of WandaVision rather than a Doctor Strange film. Again, he feels like a co-star in his own freaking movie. It isn't really until he ends up in the universe where reality has collapsed in on itself and meets a Doctor Strange who himself was corrupted by the Darkhold that the whole question of is Steven happy or not comes up again. But for the vast majority of the film, that character thread is just left hanging. We do see him working with an alternate universe Christine and confessing his love for her and his regret, and that was a good moment. I'm not taking away from that, but again, this stuff is coming, at the beginning of the film and at the end of the film, and there's not really a lot there for Doctor Strange in the middle of the film, which is the vast majority of the film. So, there is good moments for Doctor Strange in this movie as a character, but we don't get enough of him in his own movie, and that's what's so weird about this. It just feels more like the Wanda show, more than, the Doctor Strange movie. It's so weird. The only instance I can think of where this does come up in the middle of the film is when they are in an alternate universe and they come across a device. It's like a store that projects memories, and we see a memory of Christine with Doctor Strange in the past, and you can see his regret. But we just needed more of Doctor Strange in the Doctor Strange movie, and more of this character development throughout the film, and we just sadly don't get enough of that. So this is a good segue into the character of America Chavez. Now look, I'm not the biggest fan of America Chavez in the comics, especially recently, and that's being nice about it. I thought this was an odd choice to include her in this movie because, as far as I know, she isn't usually associated with Doctor Strange in the comics, but I tried to keep in mind that this is a movie adaptation, so maybe they'll mix things up and change the character and make the film version of the character better than the comic version. But the thing is, America Chavez isn't even a character in this movie. She's just a plot device. They try to give her some funny moments, and the actress playing the character does a good job, but it's the writing. She is literally just an object for Wanda to go after, and a MacGuffin for Doctor Strange to protect. They try to give her more character, though, with her backstory with her parents, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this is one of the worst backstories I've ever seen in the MCU. Alright, so get this. Alright, so they established that America Chavez cannot control her powers, and they activate when she is afraid or under extreme stress. And the first time ever in her life that she opens a portal to the multiverse, she loses her parents inside the portal and hasn't been able to find them since. And you know what triggered her power the first time? You know what started this whole journey through the multiverse for her? Oh my god. This was so ridiculous. It was a bee. It was a freaking bee. A bee scares her so much that she tears open the fabric of reality. Are you serious? I mean, don't get me wrong. Look, I get it. I'm allergic to bees, alright? They scare the crap out of me because, one sting from them and I'm on my way to the hospital, but come on. If a bee is all it took to scare her enough, listen to what I'm saying. A bee is all it took to scare her enough to rip open reality, then this kid should be opening portals way more often. It's dumb. It's really, really dumb as a backstory. I mean, I couldn't believe that's what they went with. I honestly could not believe this. I was sitting there, in the theater, and I saw it and I was like, that's it? Really? I just couldn't believe they couldn't come up with anything better. I mean, look, between the crappy ass backstory and the fact that she is more of a plot device than a character in this movie, yeah, this film didn't make me dislike America Chavez any less than I already did. And in fact, I may dislike the character even more now after this. And then the way at the end when she finally gets control of her powers is just by Strange saying he believes in her. It's so dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's so dumb. She ends up training with the Masters of the Mystic Arts now, so I guess they are setting up Young Avengers or something. But I really don't care. I really don't. She was just a plot device in this movie. Her backstory was dumb. And that, again, nothing against the actress playing the character or anything like that, but man, they should have left America Chavez in the comics. Okay, that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the cameos. So all the rumors of Deadpool and Wolverine and Tobey Spider-Man, Andrew Spider-Man, the X-Men coming in, all those supposed leaks that we got for months and months and months and months and months were utter crap. None of that happens. But what we do get is the Illuminati. So there is an alternate universe where the Avengers never really formed, and instead we get a group of heroes known as the Illuminati. For those who don't know, the Illuminati were a group of genius superheroes who came together to secretly influence the world and the world events for its own good and protection. Now, as somebody familiar with the comics themselves, I was hyped as hell to see the Illuminati appear in this movie. And when they finally show up, here I was getting hyped for them. I saw the silhouettes. I was like, oh man, here we go. This is the moment from the trailers. We're going to get to see the Illuminati. And to be honest with you, they were a bit lackluster. So the original Illuminati in the comics, or at least the one that I'm most familiar with, consisted of Iron Man, Professor X, Namor, Black Bolt, Doctor Strange, and Mr. Fantastic. In this film, we get some of those characters. Black Panther was offered to be in the group, but declined because he believed the group's intentions would result in failure in the comics. But in the MCU, with the Illuminati, we do end up getting Mr. Fantastic, which was a really hype moment. The theater lost its mind when we saw Mr. Fantastic. We get Black Bolt, we get Mordo, who is now Sorcerer Supreme in this universe, replacing Doctor Strange. This was one of the most hyped moments in the film. See, this film has good moments. It has good moments. It's just really poorly put together. But this was one of the most hyped moments in the film. We get freaking Professor X, played by Sir Patrick Stewart, and when he showed up, they played the 90s X-Men animated series theme. The da-na-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na-na, da-na-na. I was like, yes, freak yes. I was so hyped. I was like, that's my childhood right there. Let's go. So, I'm hyping all this up. All this sounds good, right? Well, honestly, okay, Namor, I could have taken him or left him. I don't really care. Doctor Strange died in the battle with Thanos in this universe, so, Mordo took his place in the group. Fair enough. Apparently, he's a good guy here. But, what was disappointing is that the other two members of the Illuminati were, of all people, Agent Carter and Maria Rambeau as Captain Marvel? What? These two were never members of the Illuminati, at least as far as I remember. Why didn't we get an alternate version of Tony Stark? Can you imagine how much the theater would have erupted in applause if Robert Downey Jr. had shown up as Iron Man one last time in this movie? That was a huge missed opportunity. I don't know why they didn't do that. I mean, it would have been fantastic. And that goes to another issue that I had with this film. For a movie that, is focusing on the madness of the multiverse, this film felt really, really restrained. I mean, they could have taken this concept way further, and it's just like they held themselves back for some reason. I mean, give us, alternate universe Tony Stark. Have, Professor X call in the X-Men, because if Professor X is here, apparently some version of the group has to exist in this universe, but we never see them. It wouldn't be the same group from the Fox films, but it would be an alternate version of them. Have Deadpool show up for a breaking the fourth wall moment. Let Strange step into the Tobey and Andrew Spider-Man universes for a minute or two, which, by the way, I don't know how, but for some reason, Strange remembers the events of No Way Home for some reason, even though he isn't supposed to be able to remember. He does anyways, somehow. They never explain it. Seems like a plot hole to me. That's kind of weird. I don't know what's going on there. But going on with this cameo stuff, I will say there was a brief second in the film where we actually got to see the Living Tribunal from the comics, and I was like, oh crap, that's the number 2 guy right there. If you don't know, the god of the Marvel reality is the One Above All, and the Living Tribunal is essentially his second in command. So that dude is a big freaking deal, and I'm sure he's going to be coming up in a future film at some point. So the cameos were kind of a mixed bag, to be honest with you. There was some cameos I was like, yes. But there was, other cameos that I was like, that's a missed opportunity. That's a huge missed opportunity. And while the cameos were a mixed bag, some hype, some disappointing, what I will give this film credit for, and this had Sam Raimi's fingerprints all over it, the horror aspects. The demons in the movie were definitely in the Sam Raimi style. We get this final battle where Doctor Strange uses an ability called dream walking to possess the corpse of a dead Doctor Strange to fight Scarlet Witch. And it's actually pretty damn cool, but the scariest part is Scarlet Witch herself. Bro, there is a point in this movie where she uses dream walking to possess the alternate universe version of Wanda, and she absolutely destroys the Illuminati. She turns Mr. Fantastic into spaghetti. She crushes Captain Marvel with a statue. She cut Agent Carter in half with her own shield. I was like, my God. However, I was not a fan of how she killed Professor X. She snaps his neck when he is in the astral plane. And if you know anything from the comics, Professor X is damn near unstoppable in the astral plane. There should have been way more of a fight between him and Scarlet Witch. Again, another missed opportunity in this film. I didn't like that at all. That's some major disrespect towards Professor X right there. But Scarlet Witch was scary as hell, and I did like the horror aspect of the movie. So we do learn in this film that Doctor Strange from the Illuminati universe was on his way to being corrupted by the Darkhold, and so he had the other members of the Illuminati kill him after he defeated Thanos with the Darkhold, and they lied about it to the public, saying that he sacrificed himself against Thanos. We later see in another alternate reality the end result of what would have happened with that. We get to see an actual corrupted Doctor Strange, and this was honestly the best fight in the whole movie. The two Doctor Stranges are conjuring these musical notes and having this fight with these notes, and it's hard to describe. There's no way I could describe it and do it justice. You need to go see, if nothing else, go see the movie for this one scene alone, because this scene was freaking fantastic. Again, going back, to the amazing special effects of the first movie, this topped that. This was like, whoa. I mean, this is pretty damn cool. And this is a fight that you can never portray in a comic book, but it works so well in film. And I love that they took advantage of the medium to show a fight like this. It was so good. And so with that positive note, let's go ahead and move on to my final thoughts on this movie. Overall, when it comes to Doctor Strange 2, there were moments of this movie that I really do like. There were moments that I thought didn't work as well. And when I look at the full picture of this film, I just feel that it could have been so much better. But it wasn't. It was kind of lackluster and kind of messy at the end of the day. And I think that's the best word to describe Doctor Strange 2. It's messy, it's madness, and maybe that was the point. I don't know. I feel like this movie could have done with a couple of more rewrites, and yeah, it just feels like a hodgepodge of good and bad pieces that didn't make a very attractive picture. And I do have to kind of wonder if maybe one of the problems with this movie and why it was such a mess is not only because of the reshoots, but also because Scott Derrickson, who directed the original Doctor Strange film, he was supposed to actually direct the sequel, but he got taken off the project and replaced with Sam Raimi. And don't get me wrong, I like Raimi as a director. I mean, he directed, my favorite, trilogy of Spider-Man films, so I'm not, trying to throw any shade at Raimi, but I do wonder if Scott Derrickson maybe would have been a better choice, to continue the production of this movie. Because he did seem, in interviews back when he was working on the film, he seemed really excited about his vision, his direction for this movie. And he did a really great job with the first film, so I do have to wonder, maybe it was a mistake and they should have kept Scott Derrickson on the film. Maybe if they had, this would have turned out to be a better movie. So, is this the worst film Marvel has ever made? No, of course not. Is it in the top 10 MCU films? No. The first Doctor Strange is definitely better. Definitely better by a long shot. Would I recommend you see it? Well, if you're keeping up with the plot of the MCU hardcore, you don't really have much of a choice. Because it does conclude some things from WandaVision, and it does kind of set up some things for the future. But for the casual viewer, I wouldn't bother. This film could have been so much more. We do get a post-credit scene where Doctor Strange seems to be influenced by the Dark Dimension from the first film, and a character shows up by the name of Clay or Clea. I'm not exactly sure how it's pronounced, to be honest with you. She shows up and she opens a portal to what seems to be the Dark Dimension. Maybe this is suggesting that Mordo is finally going to be the villain of Doctor Strange 3. It could be, possibly, I don't know. I just kind of want to see Mordo come back and get that plot thread tied up, to be honest with you. In the comics, Clea, or Clee, however you want to pronounce it, eventually becomes the wife of Doctor Strange, and so we'll see if the MCU takes the character in the same direction. But that being said, let me know your thoughts on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I'm curious to see how many people like this film, how many people hated it, and how many people see it as a mixed bag and kind of a mess like I do. Until then, be sure to subscribe, click the like button, click the bell for notifications, follow me on Twitter, link down below, and if you like video games, I have a gaming channel, so that will also be linked down below. Subscribe to that as well. Till the next one, I'm Jessica James, signing out.